Good morning. Today is Monday, January, oh my goodness, I lost track of the date, January 13th. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm Anthony, and this is Drive Dive. So anyway, it's Monday. I hope you enjoyed the weekend. This one's about time, right? And time management, and how really time isn't guaranteed. Like this might be the only moment you have. I appreciate you spending it with me, but it may be the only time that you have, the only moment that you have. So, how you use your time is really important. How we do that is really important. It's something I try to impress upon my children. I guess now impress upon you, and in doing so, I'm really reminding myself, reflecting on the weekend, how I use my time, and I don't know, am I doing the right thing? I do put a lot of pressure on myself, but yeah, let's be more specific. So my weekend, my goal was to work out. I wanted to work out Friday, wanted to work out Saturday, and on Sunday. I ended up, in order to get that done, why Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Why Friday, Saturday, Sunday? My week, I spent a little bit of time talking about being available for my kids. So generally, yes, pretty darn available for my kids, whether we're running around different activities with and for my son, or just being there and dropping things when my daughter wants me to pick her up, or play with blocks, or things of that sort, bedtime routines, etc. So Friday comes around, and that's my time to work out. That's when I'm going to try to make it happen. I try to during the week, and then it gets a little frustrating because in between sets I am playing with the kids. And, okay, Daddy's got to go again. I got to get another set, and then I'll do that, and then come right back. And all right, Daddy's got to get another set. And so it works, or they'll then come into. I'm very fortunate. I don't want to sound like I don't recognize that, but very fortunate to have a home gym set up. But I'll try working out at home, and our Daddy's got to do another set, and then they start creeping into the gym. Right now, they have toys in the gym with me, or there's a television in there, so then we start watching Bubble Guppies or something. Well, I'm trying to work out, right? This is work. I'm trying to make some progress, some focus here, and so I don't always love when those things merge, right? I like to have not just time for everything, but a time and a place or space, for the different things I'm involved in, different things I involve myself in, right? Remember that it is a choice. More often than not, it's a choice, right? I choose to work out. I choose to do this YouTube thing, We do make these choices. But so I did get to work out Friday night. Of course, it was sometime around 9 o'clock when I was starting, right? Most people are winding down, but that's the time I had, and me making this choice, I want to work out, and well, that's the time, that's the place. Friday, 9 o'clock, my house, the basement, right? I'm working out, so I did get to do that. Saturday, I want to say, yes, was back in bars, and I ended up doing that at home, but again, the kids coming in and out of the gym, and it was the three of us home. My wife had gone out to do some shopping, so watching the kids, but not watching the kids, right? Like I think my son, I did two of them initially, like playing with some blocks. Maybe my son was trying to play little video games. Then they're coming into the gym, and it's cool, right? I mean, it's a proud moment when they start coming into the gym and trying to pick up lighter dumbbells. I have a couple of 1 kilogram, was it nylon or rubber coated, whatever, dumbbells for them to goof around with. It's okay if my 2-year-old picks them up. They're light. If she drops them on her toe, it hasn't happened yet. At least they're coated and not just bare metal or something. But she likes to hang on the bars, right? It reminds her, hang on the barbell when it's in the squat rack. It reminds her, I guess, of gymnastics and all that. So that was cool. Friday, Saturday, as far as my goals and hitting the gym, and then Sunday, I didn't work out, but I did get a massage in the morning, which is kind of like working on the body, right? You need that maintenance and things. And I was going to go home The house was empty. The family went to the gym. I got a massage. I was going to go home. It was still empty. I was going to hit legs. But I started warming up on the treadmill. I realized, the therapist had really worked on those legs a little bit, IT bend and things. And so I was kind of feeling it while I was walking. A little woozy a little bit, which I guess can happen after a massage. I tend to drink a lot of water. So I just said, you know what? A little sleep deprived and things. I won't do it. So now I'm going to try to push that into today. Try to get legs in today because we got some stuff tomorrow, we got some stuff Wednesday. Looking ahead to next weekend, I won't have Saturday, so I'll have to bump a workout up into Thursday, right? So like today's got to be the day. Got to make these things happen. And sometimes in order to make it work, instead of doing 3 sets, I'll only do 2. Sometimes I'll try to shorten the rest time. Instead of, 90 seconds to 2 minutes, I'll only go 45 seconds, try to make it all work. But I guess, it comes down to time. But, right, that's important, right? Time management, fitting things in. But if you remember, too, that, at least for me, it's not just me and what I want to do. It's not just me fitting in my activities, but it's also making time for my loved ones. And it's making time or setting the right messages and the right impressions. And as I'm making these decisions, being cognizant of, how am I making those around me feel? I guess too, how do I feel, right? And so it's tough where yesterday, even something simple like I was trying to just log into some different accounts and update some things, make sure our, finances and things. I don't like to talk about money and sound spoiled or whatever, but I got to keep an eye on these things. I like to log in regularly and check and see how we're doing. And so as I'm trying to do that though, again, the kids are trying to play with me, or my daughter comes running over and she wants to be like daddy, and she's banging on the keyboard and clicking on the mouse. And so I'm constantly starting and stopping, almost like I said if I'm trying to get a workout in while the kids are home and trying to play with me or have me play with them. It's there's this constant start and stop, and I'll be right back. I got to get another set. Daddy's got to go again. I'll be right back. So it's just interesting to try to figure out how to get all these things done. But then we also have to remind ourselves what's really important. Is it better for me to spend the time updating some spreadsheet, or hanging out with the family? What were we doing last night? I think Twister got broken out. There were blocks. There was Battleship. All of these things occurring while I'm trying to be on my laptop for a little bit there. So but then too, I'll say I watched an episode, maybe 2 episodes of Squid Game, and maybe that was something I didn't have to do, and I could have been updating the spreadsheet at that time, right? And so it's just, I guess, learning to make these. That's what I'm working on, right? Always room for improvement. Just working on juggling this stuff and getting things done. It's always tough, where sometimes I feel like in the moment I'm just, yes, I'm present and I'm with the kids, I'm with my wife, but I'm almost just waiting for everyone to go to bed so then I can get into some of those other things, whether it's me working out, updating a spreadsheet, or taking the time to just completely unwind, shut the brain off, and watch Squid Game. But sometimes I talk with my students in the classroom about this sort of stuff, and how there are no guarantees. I'm 40 and I joke, but I'm also serious. I say, guys my age, sometimes they have heart attacks and that's it. So trying to make the most of it. And of course, I remember when I was saying that, somebody was really snarky about it, and they were like, so you'd potentially spend your final moments teaching math? And I said, well, not just teaching math, but teaching you, right? And so I think, in that moment, pressured, I think I hit the nail on the head, where if these are our final moments, they should be spent connecting with other people, impacting them in some way, shape, or form. And so I guess that's my challenge, for myself, for all of you watching, is to make those connections, and ensure that we're doing things like that with each of these precious moments that we do have, the precious time that we do have. So try to keep those things in perspective. I guess I'll leave it there. Happy Monday. Time, connections, manage all of that well. That's all I got. Have a good one. Good morning. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. My name's Anthony. This is Drive Dive. I guess if you were just tuning in, I don't know, previous episodes kind of been talking about things like limiting distractions and creating synergy in some of our activities and pastimes. And I think I said something about making connections, right? Managing time and making connections. And so I think I'm continuing down that vein today. As I mentioned yesterday, in the previous episode, talking about my goals and wanting to work out, and how that kind of panned out over the weekend, and then because I didn't get all 3 workouts in, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was going to try to push one in to the week, and then thinking ahead to next weekend, I wouldn't be able to. I know I'm not going to be able to work out on Saturday, so bumping one up into the tail end of this current week. And so, I guess a quick update on that. Like, I was able to work out yesterday, thankfully. I mean, it did take a couple of hours from the time I started. Got interrupted and needed to be present and available. Is another topic I've spoken about, for my daughter. And so, and even on top of that, yesterday I said something to the effect of, like, when I am working out, in order to make sure I'm fitting it in, sometimes I'll reduce the number of sets, or I'll reduce my rest time in between. So I had to do all of that yesterday to make it happen. But the deal is, right, or the point, the goal, the objective, the thing to celebrate, another theme or word I've touched upon is, I did get it done. I did get it in. I was still able to connect with my daughter. I was still able to have a conversation around the dinner table. We're sharing a little bit of just, how was your day? And, kind of going around the horn. So that was nice. And so I'm just saying that, again, if you've been following, or if you haven't, me talking about synergy, connections, time management, whether this is meant to be advice for you, or some form of therapy for myself, I think I'm happy knowing that I was able to get those things done. You can do it too, and if you need that motivation. And for myself, I don't know, I'm just happy, and I hope that you can be happy for me. And so, I guess the thing I wanted to talk about today is this idea of busyness. And I heard it said in a podcast that if busyness is your drug, then simply relaxing is going to feel awful. And I mean, it was said like it's a bad thing, and I admit, right, there is a fine line between, I guess, being a workaholic and, you know, keeping yourself busy, or rather than simply busy. I think the word is that I would choose to use, or that I would strive for, is being productive, right? I think there's a difference between busyness and productivity, right? And that's I guess my biggest concern in life in general is, you know, am I just spinning my wheels? Am I doing all of these different things and going nowhere? I just need to feel that something is being accomplished, that some amount of progress is being made toward some sort of goal. The things that I do are an investment for some payout, whether today, tomorrow, or years down the road. It's some sort of investment. And that's the way I'm trying to look at things, the way I'm trying to approach my daily routine, my weekly routine and calendar, etc. In the diet and exercise, right, longevity, right, I think is just an admirable goal. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and I think I'm in the best shape of my life. I think that, and I think that's important. And beyond that, if I wanted a tangible goal, I don't know. I've thought about maybe competing again, as I've done before in you know, bodybuilding shows. It's a possible goal. I don't know. Similarly, though, right, I could say that any amount of time I spend with my children, right, putting stuff down may stress me out to an extent, but putting down those things, whether it's working out or grading papers, or I mentioned something about updating spreadsheets and things of that nature for myself and for the household, right, managing bills and finances, all that stuff. Putting those things down and spending any time with my children, it is an investment in our relationship. And I mean, I don't think I can put tangible goals on those types of things, but I do know there will be some sort of payout down the road in the form of a stronger relationship in general, or maybe more specific, there will be times in which they need advice, they're struggling with some sort of decision. I'm either going to be the voice in their head, or I'm going to be the person that they come to for advice and have an actual conversation. And so, while not uber specific, right, I can't point to a date, a time, a specific problem that I might help them resolve. But I can say with, I think, absolute certainty that the time I spend with them is an investment, and there will be that payoff. For them, for me, right, it's just as important for me to just feel connected and valued and have worth and purpose. And so that's where I think there's this line for me between busyness and productivity. I don't want to just be busy. I want to be productive. Right? I don't want to. I was thinking about sometimes in education, right? It's I don't know. You get to a certain point, and you talk to enough other educators, and there's a good number who are just talking about how many years they have left before they retire. And it's one, yes, it's sad, but for education and for kids, but just thinking about, again, busyness versus productivity. I don't want to be just waiting for the end. I would rather, to me, that's busyness, just waiting for the end. I would rather set this goal of, well, if you really are unhappy in your career, but you do see retirement as a better option, well, then make it your goal to retire early, right? And be productive and take steps on a daily basis or as often as you can to retire early, right? Set that goal and make things happen. Don't just sit and wait. So that's, I think, ultimately what I'm trying to accomplish, is this, just being productive. And yes, right, TV time I think is important, and taking that time to relax and wind down, but you can watch something that helps support your goals and your productivity levels. So even though it's a silly thing, last night I did choose to watch some TV while I ate my late night meal, and because I choose to spend time with my son playing Disney Lorcana, a trading card game, and we have some tournaments coming up, rather than just watch some random television show that might be entertaining, I elected to watch a video overview of the top 16 decks from this past weekend's North American Championship. And so to me, it's decisions like that, how we spend, maybe, I'm not saying, right, we don't have to rule out TV time. We can still have TV time, but there is a way to make that productive time. This is assuming that we do have other goals that we're working toward. And if not, and just TV time and streaming a random, entertaining, suspenseful, whatever kind of show or movie you're into and looking for, that's okay too. But I'm just saying, for myself, and maybe folks like me who kind of involve themselves in a number of things, there's a way to still have that, TV downtime and meet those goals and be productive and not feel like you were scrolling forever and now 2 hours have gone by and you haven't accomplished nearly what you set out to do. So again, for me, the theme of this, well, I hope you appreciate that little recap of my day and the progress I felt like I have made so far this week. Again, just talking about this idea of busyness versus productivity. So anyway, I'd appreciate it if you enjoyed watching this video. Give us a nice like and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Turn on that notification bell, but more so, if you'd leave a comment down below, I would love to, get in that kind of exchange with you. Your goals, my goals, how you maybe struggle with being, busyness versus being productive, and exchange some tips, some ideas, some thoughts. I'd love to hear what your goals are, and if I have any advice or things to share, and that can relate and motivate. I don't know, that would be awesome. So anyway, again, I'm Anthony. This is Drive Dive. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. All right, good morning. Today is Wednesday, January 15th. I'm Anthony, and this is Drive Dive. I'll start off by saying I've been listening to an audiobook by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Along the lines of trying to make my drive more productive, one of the earlier thoughts was to consume, right? But to consume something maybe a bit more practical, a bit more aligned with my goals, or that would certainly support them or give me a more positive outlook and things of that sort. So went from podcasts on like managing your finances and saving for retirement and I guess, I don't know, maybe a couple of books about about positivity and mindset and things, and now right now the one that's sticking with me and I think resonating with a lot of the content that I've now produced, I guess, on this sort of vlog, right, which may be a dated term or whatnot, but he talks about atomic habits, and as far as I've gotten right now, maybe I only started listening to it yesterday, so a couple chapters in, I think sort of like 3 tiers where it talks not just about goals, which I think is something that I really have stressed lately, particularly yesterday. I was talking about busyness versus productivity and thinking to myself that the difference is having specific goals in mind and having or things that we're working toward, right? Not just doing a bunch of things, busyness, but doing a bunch of things so that we're making progress toward an eventual, I would hope, defined goal. But then I also talked yesterday about how sometimes these goals are maybe a bit more vague, not as concrete, not as specific. It reminds me a little bit in education, we talk often about SMART goals and how they should be specific and measurable, etc. I think I don't even, right? But he talks about you can't just have goals. That I guess sports analogies where, let's take the NFL, it's every team's goal to win the Super Bowl, but not every team does it. And so in addition to goals, we have to have systems, we have to have approaches, things in place that, right, we have to look at how are we running our practices. And he even dives into the British cycling team and their turnaround story and how they took a look at their system, take a look at their bike design, at the clothing that their riders were wearing, their habits and routines, and trying to figure out how to like hiring a surgeon to come in and teach members of the team how to better wash their hands as a means of preventing illness. And so making a lot of these sort of incremental changes, these 1% changes, I think as James Clear describes, and those little changes, while maybe not intended to, right, or a 1% change, that you're not going to see a significant difference, but making an incremental change often enough over a long enough period of time, it then compounds, and then we do start to see really, really significant differences and changes, and perhaps achievement of those larger goals. But in addition to goals and having systems in place to support those goals, he also throws out, I guess, a third tier, and maybe a primary one of identity and understanding, I guess, how we see ourselves. And so to go back to the NFL and winning the Super Bowl, we have this identity of, we are a Super Bowl winning team. Okay. And then we can start to reflect on our systems and start to think about, well, okay, in this instance, what would a Super Bowl winning team do? How would that team operate? How would the individual players, how would the coaches, how would the trainers, what does the facility look like? All of these things, you then, I guess, start to really evaluate the habits, the routines, that system from that through that lens, that perspective of no, this is what I am, this is who we are, and so therefore this is how we operate in order to achieve our goals. So I guess for me a couple of things maybe come to mind before I'm at a point in the book where I guess they're about to start getting into how we form habits, form good habits, I should say, and break some bad habits, some bad routines. So I know as I was listening to it, I was thinking about a lot of my daily routines and like some of the clutter around my house, and he even specifically mentions clutter as like an accumulation of a bad habit or a bad routine. He says, right, your clutter is the result of your cleaning habits. So thinking about, well, if we don't have the good habit of putting things away, or putting them in the garbage, the recycling, etc., right, a place for everything and everything in its place, if that's not something that we are routinely doing, then yes, the result is clutter. Whereas if it is something that we are routinely doing, not piling up the mail, but right on a daily basis, well, here's where the mail goes, so it gets cluttered. But on a daily basis, if instead we were sifting through it, taking that minute or two to sift through it and discard the junk mail basically, then there wouldn't be that clutter. Have it cleaner, at least cleaner counter spaces, right? I don't know where you put your mail, but that's where ours ends up. And so it's things like that, and I have these conversations too with my son very often. It's always the morning, the final few minutes, I'm ready to leave the house, but maybe he's looking for a hat, or he's trying to find his gloves, or he doesn't know where his favorite sweatshirt is or something. And it's like, well, we have to develop better routines, better habits, have a place for these things, and make sure that when we do take off our hat, we're not just throwing it in a random location in the house, but putting it in a very specific place, right? So trying to break the bad habit, but also form a good one. And so we'll see what the rest of the book entails. I'm gonna have to re-listen to the current portion. He gets a little more, I don't want to say into the weeds, but certainly more systematic, or there's different steps about making certain habits either pleasurable or not, and maybe somehow convenient or something. Again, I have to re-listen to it, but even has me reflecting on some of the habits and routines within my classroom, right? Within lesson planning, from just the having a do now, and trying to get my students to understand that, well, no, like the bell rang, and one of our bad habits maybe is to continue on with conversations from lunch or from the hallway, but no, we have to break that bad habit somehow and get into the good habit of working on the do now while we have our homework out, and being ready to go and engage in the lesson that way. But so it's a little bit on them, it's a little bit on me too, to form these better habits, better routines, to have an overall better system where we can all achieve what I hope. And that's sometimes my assumption in education, right, is that everybody wants to get an A. I don't know if that's the goal, but that's what I've often tried to reflect on, as I have a number of students who just seem to be disinterested, right? I'm thinking of one student in particular where I know some things about the student, what their hobbies, their interests, and pastimes, and they've shared enough of that, right? It's like they're enough of a person, and pleasant enough to speak with and carry on a conversation, etc. But then when it comes to doing the academic work, they put their heads down and don't turn things in, don't finish assessments, and so some of those things are puzzling, and I guess probably indicative of, I think what James Clear talks about, I would say is maybe indicative of not the best system. And then my response to those types of behaviors was often, well, maybe we need some, I was phrasing it as character development in my mind to help students set goals for themselves. But I think it's also the other piece of identity formation, and who am I, or who do I want to be? Who do I idolize, maybe, or the type of person that I idolize and aspire to? And okay, what would that type of person do in this situation? How can I adopt some of those behaviors, those habits, those routines? And those are all the thoughts that I have about, I don't know, some of the things that, like I said, some of the things I've been talking about as far as being available, as far as being productive. I think I just aspire to, in those moments of wanting to be available and wanting to tell myself, right, I don't know, the work is always going to be there. Like, yes, let's try to find a way to put this work down and ignore it or put a pin in it, for a minute while I have some time or spend some time, with my children, right, my son, my daughter, some of the activities they want me to, engage with them in. Part of that, right, identity. I want to be that loving father. I want to, maybe make up, right, for some of the things that I didn't feel I didn't receive when I was a young child. So there's lots built up into it. So if you've kind of caught on to some of my content and buying into maybe some of my messaging, maybe that's hitting home. I do think in a more sort of formal manner, James Clear does a nice job of articulating a lot of these ideas and of highlighting some of the research in behaviorism and such. That a lot of this, I guess, is rooted in, or it provides us this, sort of framework to, as I said, take a look at our goals, our systems, and certainly our identities. So yeah, I guess, I don't know, we'll see what I title this one, but I do appreciate you listening. Again, if you could, give us a like, comment down below, subscribe, please, and share with a friend, anybody who might need to hear something like this, or if not me, right, if not my channel, maybe I would encourage you to encourage them, to check out Atomic Habits by James Clear, whether in print or audio. But that's it for me. Happy Wednesday, and we'll check in tomorrow. Have a good day. All right, how are you doing out there? Happy Thursday, January 16th. I'm Anthony, and this is Drive Dive. So, I've been reading, following a little bit of this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I guess where I'm at right now, talking about habit formation and things of that sort, and right, he gets into like, it's not good enough to just have goals. You have to have systems in place to support those goals and your capacity to just get stuff done. And maybe more importantly or something, it's also your identity, how you identify. Do you see yourself as a productive individual, a hardworking individual, as an honest person, as a loving father? And however you identify or want to identify, that then would guide your actions in certain situations, and then, right, with informing those systems, habits and behaviors within those systems, that then, I guess, help you make progress toward goals. But I guess, I don't know, where I'm at in the book right now, some of the things you're talking about are things like habit stacking, things like in your systems, right? How do you organize your space? I guess saying that habits are often informed by the environment, the context, and different cues within those environments triggering, I guess, certain behaviors. And I'm paraphrasing and probably doing a poor job of it. But it made me think of a couple of things. Like one positive, I think, is that I am habit stacking when creating these videos, in that I'm incorporating it into the process, right? Incorporating it into something I'm already doing as part of, I guess, my system or my routine, right? I'm up in the morning, getting ready and whatever all that entails. I'm dropping my son off from school, and then as soon as I drop him off, I'm then getting into my car, punching. I put work into my phone, my GPS every day, just to check traffic and things and kind of understand when I'm going to get there. Do I need to call and maybe let them know I'm going to be a minute or two late? I've got a pretty long drive and traffic can be tricky, so I do that. But as soon as I'm done with that, I then, have my phone set up and get over to the camera, press record. So I think that's I could put that under that bucket of habit stacking. When I'm finished with this, I'm going to do that. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to do that. Some of the examples he provides in the book are things like when I take a break for lunch, I'm going to do 10 push-ups, but tries to make it more specific, or found himself he needed to make it more specific and say things like, when I close my laptop for lunch, I'm going to do 10 push-ups. So you can build these positive habits, routines, productive behaviors into your already structured routine. So I think without really knowing it, without really having the verbiage to describe the actions and the process that I was engaged in finding the time to create these videos and be more productive in general, feel more productive, make something out of this long drive that really bothers me. But that's how James Clear, I think, describes that process, habit stacking. The other piece, and this is something where I need to improve, I feel, is he talks about, again, thinking about some of these different cues, provides a couple of different examples I think of how like time and space inform our habits and things, and how maybe we can better structure our environments to either create better habits or certainly to maybe to break some of the bad habits. And so I guess what he shares is within his own life, when he decided to pursue a career as an entrepreneur, he found himself working a lot in his kitchen, and so then it wasn't really clear whether his kitchen table was a place for, or his kitchen in general, is it a place for cooking? Is it a place for eating? Is it a place for responding to emails, working on his computer? It was kind of this sort of catch-all space. And with everything kind of bleeding into one another, it could be that initially he goes into the kitchen to eat, but then because his laptop is there and so easily accessible, just hops on to email and work-related business, and then, oh yeah, by the way, like I completely forgot to eat, right? Or vice versa, go into the kitchen looking for the laptop, but turns out there are maybe cookies left out on the table, or he says that he wanted to eat more apples, and so he put the apples out on the table in some sort of display bowl. So, maybe initially my initial purpose was to go in there to get some work done, but now because these snacks are so readily available, I end up snacking, eating, and now so much time has gone by, and it's like, oh yeah, right, I was supposed to do this, I was supposed to do that. And so he found himself then, I guess, being more productive when he was able to organize his home office, and now it became very clear, like, okay, this is the time and space, more importantly the space, for me to do work-related tasks, and then the kitchen is that space for cooking and eating. And that just reminds me then of, within my own routine, after everybody's gone to bed, I will go into the basement. And for me, that right now, and probably the couch in the basement is the spot for me that ends up being this sort of like catch-all space. I end up first, right, leaving either my son or daughter's bedroom after my wife and I, we take turns kind of putting the kids to bed, who has who this night and that night. So leaving one of their bedrooms, I go to the kitchen, I grab my late night meal. If you're wondering, it's an apple, it's egg whites with rice, and yogurt with peanut butter. And so then I go downstairs into the basement, and I do have a desk down there with a couple of monitors and a docking station where I can plug in my laptop. And my intention there is to, like, okay, I would sit there and do work-related tasks. But I end up sitting on the couch where I'm like, okay, yeah, on the couch, I can eat there, I can watch TV there. I tell myself, like, I'm gonna eat and like watch TV while I eat. And as soon as I'm finished eating, I'll turn off the TV and then I'll get to work. And I think what happens is, because that couch is such a multi-purpose space where I can easily do anything, it's like, well, if I'm going to sit there, why don't I just sit here and do those same tasks? So I end up sitting there, I finish eating, and then sometimes I don't turn off the TV. Or while I'm eating and the TV's on, I end up on my cell phone, and I'm done eating, or I finished the apple, and I dived into something, whether it's on the TV screen or on my phone. Or, all right, I finished the apple, right? But then right, I never. And then later, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't eat the egg whites. And oh yeah, I still have to eat the yogurt. Or sometimes in between, like, okay, yes, I eat the apple, I eat the egg whites and the rice, and then I get into something, and it's, oh right, I'm supposed to have, eat my yogurt now. Either get lost in the phone, or I get lost in whatever's on the TV screen, Netflix, Amazon Prime, whatever. Prime Video, and then I don't get the other things done, right? It's this habit of going to that couch, and then that as a cue, I think, is what then triggers all these other behaviors. And I think the thing is, right, he really describes it well in that when you are in this space and there is this cue that could trigger multiple different behaviors, it's usually the easiest of those behaviors that gets triggered. So, right, and think about it, right? Sitting in that on the couch in that spot, I'm talking about things like eating, watching TV, browsing whatever on my phone, playing an online game on my laptop. The things I would like to do or need to do, grade papers. I mentioned like a spreadsheet one day and trying to update finances and make sure bills are paid and such. Right, there are all of those things, and yeah, what ends up happening, it's so true, are those easier tasks, right? Eating's not a very difficult task. Watching TV is not a very difficult task. Scrolling on my phone, not a very difficult task. And then something like playing a game is likewise not difficult. And I would say all of those types of things are pleasurable, right? Are pleasurable, and I guess I was going to say like rewarding and not too I guess draining on the brain, right? They're not challenging tasks. They're fun. They're enjoyable. Whereas and those are things I want to do. Grading papers, finances, right? Folding laundry, right? Those are some of the things that I need to do. Those are all of these things that can occur within that space. I can do all of these things sitting in that spot on the couch. Why wouldn't I sit there? Well, right. That's the argument, is having these one location catch-all spaces ends up truly being counterproductive. And he cites even, I guess, knowing maybe a colleague or friend who would maybe like had different devices, different purposes, right? It's like when I'm on my, what did he say? I think laptop for emails, right? Tablet for reading, and the phone was for emails and texts. Trying to have some sort of separation there. Whereas that the cell phone, you could do all of those things on a cell phone, but then again that cue of picking up the cell phone can trigger all these different behaviors. You end up getting lost in the easiest of them all, and not get, or the things that the most pleasurable of them, and then you end up not doing the other things that maybe require a little bit more attention, maybe the things that need to get done. So I guess those are the things that I'm reflecting on, these sort of time and space for the different tasks, responsibilities that are on my plate, and I guess encouraging you to reflect on your daily routines in the same way, and some of the different improvements and whatnot you can potentially make in yours. And so for me, I'm thinking that workspace I mentioned in the basement, that corner where I do have a desk and I do have monitors and a docking station, and I could make that a more productive space. Does end up being a little cluttered and things, and maybe I need to make it bigger. Working with California Closets to design something, and while it's going to have a certain price tag, a hefty price tag, which I'm very fortunate, right? Don't mean to sound boastful or anything like that. Very fortunate to be able to do things like that, consider doing things like that. But then maybe that becomes like, okay, let's get over there. Let's get to work, do the things I need to do. And in terms of habit stacking, I can then say to myself, okay, once I do what I need to do, then I can get to the things that I want to do, or make sure that I'm doing at least part of what I need to do. Maybe I can set a timer or something. I'm thinking, right? Set a timer. The things I need to do, let's focus on those for 30 minutes. The things I want to do, let's maybe give it 10 minutes or something. So I can try to create that balance, and within those time frames, moving from one space to another, in order to I guess be more focused, like James Clear describes in Atomic Habits. So again, reflect on your goals, your systems, your identity, and then your behaviors and cues, and how maybe your space is organized or not organized. And let's identify some steps we can all take to better organize our time, our space, to trigger the appropriate behaviors, and so on. But anyway, 15 minutes in. That's it. I appreciate you listening. Give us a like, comment down below some of your habits, routines, how you organize your space, and maybe use of devices, things of that nature, anything I touched upon in this video. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, hit the notification bell, maybe share it with a friend, etc., etc., I'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, I'm Anthony. This is Drive Dive. Happy Thursday. All right, good morning. It is Friday, January 20th, 2025. I'm Anthony. This is Drive Dive. Thanks for being here with me, watching this clip. I hope you've subscribed to the channel, checked out some of the other videos, and just to remind you who I am. Right, I'm a teacher, I'm a father, husband. Right, I got a bunch of different hobbies where I'm into, I guess, dabbling in YouTube, and I like to work out, and I play Disney Lorcana. So like all these different things kind of happening, and trying to fit it all in, right? Just all the adulting and what goes into raising kids and maintaining a household and having a career, but then too these hobbies of whether it's filming and editing and playing Lorcana, weightlifting, counting my macros, and then the food prep and everything. There's just a lot that I try to do, and I've been exploring, I guess really initially on my own and with you, how to streamline some of those things, how to maybe double dip with some of my efforts and things where, okay, if I do activity X, maybe that's helping me both be a better father and be better in the gym, if that's possible. I don't even know, just throwing that idea out there. But things of that nature. And so I've been talking about synergy and productivity, and not just wanting to be spinning my wheels. Like, it's cool, and I think I'm often proud that I get a lot done, that I'm involved in a lot of things, that I've got these diverse interests, and that I don't just sit around and watch a ton of television, and then at social gatherings talk about all the different TV shows and television that I've been watching. To me, it just seems wasteful, and there are missed opportunities or something out there. So that's what I've been exploring, and I stumbled upon this book, audio book, right? Atomic Behavior by James Clear. It's kind of helped me put a lot of these thoughts, I guess, into perspective, or it's shedding certainly additional light on these thoughts and goals and systems and our habits and routines and then our identities, and how all of that sort of fits together to I guess create I don't know, daily rituals, habits, routines, and determines ultimately whether or not we're making progress towards goals or not. Are the things we do in tune with or in sync with our identities, or without realizing it, are they counter to our identities, either how we currently identify or how we would like to identify? And I thought, where I am in the book right now, I think the author James, he talks about a lot of our habits and routines and how they stem from, I guess, like our base desires as animals, right? Human beings as animals, but how we've evolved over time, and having some of these things like built into our DNA that really stem from problems from eons ago, and now, but our responses, I guess, remain. And so, some of those things are, he talks about, right? I guess the humans and our need to find a mate, our need to procreate, our need to belong. And I guess he says that, right, our need to belong, which I feel immensely at times. Our need to belong stems from just what we learned as creatures, as beings, that, well, when you do belong to a group, to a tribe, it increases your chances of finding food. It increases your chances of defending against, I guess, right, again, evolutionary, defending against initially predators, and then I guess it turns into defending against other tribes and states and nations, etc. But also increases your chances of finding a mate, of procreating. And so this notion of this desire to belong is programmed into our code, into our DNA, is what I guess the research that James Clear shares in his book Atomic Habits demonstrates. And so I've reflected on that a lot with, like, singing in my classroom, where I'll have a handful of students who just, for no real rhyme or reason, they're just goofy together, and I can't imagine that they are goofy by nature, that they're goofy in all settings, they behave this way inappropriately, all settings, around all people, and so, like, what triggers that? And I'm guessing it's possible that their desire to belong is what triggers that. And some of the research James highlights are these experiments where there's one subject in a room full of actors, and when asked a question, the actors answer the question incorrectly. They intentionally answer it incorrectly when there's an obvious right answer, and they're testing to see whether or not the subject provides the obviously correct answer, or if they go with the crowd and provide the knowingly incorrect answer. And the research shows that the greater the number of actors in the room, the more likely that the subject knowingly provides the incorrect answer. goes on, right? I guess the researchers, they'll document like the anxiety and the different. Oh my goodness, like the right, all the self-doubt and the signs that the subject demonstrates as they're wrestling with the. Wait, hold on a second. Like, all of these people really believe, that this is the correct answer when it's really that, but ultimately, I guess that desire to belong can be stronger than our desire to be right. He says that I guess at times we would rather be wrong and belong than be right and be alone. It's just so interesting to me, and I guess I don't, and I'm thinking about myself here, right? I don't know that I do that terribly often. I got one of my, I like to dissent. I like to be the contrarian, right? And offer a different opinion, a different view. And I like to question habits and routines of math departments, of school buildings, of the organizations I've been a part of. But I do at the same time often need to feel that my approach, my questioning, my thinking is valued and is welcome to the group, by the group. And I have done that. I did leave an employer when I did feel like I didn't belong. The folks I was closest with at the time seemed to be leaving the organization. So, right, I'm already kind of feeling like, oh, right, there's that connection, and okay, well now who's left, and who do I connect with, who can I talk to, who's going to be my thought partner, etc. And then I started to realize that like my bosses didn't quite value my thinking, didn't quite value my input. Wasn't getting their performance reviews or ratings and things, that I was hoping for. And I had a private conversation about, different practices and values. Like, oh, well, we just don't do that as an organization. And a lot of that didn't sit well with me. And so I left. That desire to belong, can be really strong. And it has me thinking about, other questionable behaviors, right? Like why join a gang, right? Why do some students, some adolescents, join gangs? And I think it's sometimes, right, that desire to belong. And so, I don't know, but so, it can happen for, it says like the same behaviors can be good, but it can also be bad. The same habit can be a good habit, it can also be a bad habit, right? And so I mentioned the example of gangs, right? Or, but there are also positive reasons to join a group. There are ways to use this human desire, this human need to belong. And he mentions in a company. Oh goodness, what did it was like Nerd Fitness or something. I might be wrong, but Nerd Fitness. And I think it's a company that tries to identify people who have similar hobbies, like if they playing video games, like playing trading card games and things that sort of. Let's Dungeons and Dragons, right? Let's find that first. Find a group of people that have these similar interests. Oh, that also want to work out, that also want to get in shape. Thinking that the initial, like, let me just join this gym, not knowing if I'm going to connect with, the stereotypical gym rats, even though the people at the gym aren't necessarily gym rats and aren't, we have these assumptions about people who go to the gym and their hobbies and their interests, and maybe I won't be able to connect with them. But if I know at the onset that I already have X in common with them, then, right, I might be more likely to join that group and be accepted by that group, belong to that group. We have these other things in common, and yes, we can help each other with our fitness goals as well. So it's all just interesting stuff to me, and so trying to, I think at times, right, as I did mention these things explicitly, to my students yesterday, trying to help them understand, bring to light some of their hobbies and routines, but at the same time not judge, right? Share with them as well. That I'm like, yeah, even as an adult male, if I get together with some of my old buddies and like you put enough of us in the same room together, like, yeah, we kind of act like not ourselves. We just have this. We think that when we're together, we need to act a certain way, or it's just so interesting, human behavior and all. The other thought I wanted to share, a little success, a couple successes, right? I think last Friday I just titled the video "Celebrate," so a couple things to acknowledge and give myself a little pat on the back, and I encourage you to do the same. I did mention these. One of the other things from James Clear, he talks about cues and how maybe one cue can trigger multiple behaviors, and when that happens, I guess the habit is or the tendency is to then go with the easiest of those behaviors. And so for me, a cue is at night sitting down on the couch in the basement. That's a trigger to eat my late night meal. It's a trigger to play a game on my computer. It's a trigger to watch TV, to grade papers. They're just all of these things that I do in that spot. Things I want to do, things I need to do. And what ends up happening is I tell myself, like, I do need to grade. I need to grade papers. Gotta grade papers. But then I sit down, I eat, and I tell myself, I'm going to turn on the TV, just watch something, but only while I eat. And then when I'm done eating, I'll turn off the TV and get to grading papers. And inevitably, I don't do that. I don't grade papers, right? I'll eat, I'll watch TV, and then I'm done eating, and I keep watching TV. So last night, I did will myself to not turn on the TV. Instead, I ended up playing a video game while I was eating. But as soon as I was done the video game, as soon as I was done eating, I then got up off the couch, went and sat down at the desk, and I actually graded some papers. So, right, when there's a will, there's a way. And having just that change of location from one space, one cue, sitting in this spot, these are the activities. Well, when I went and sat over by the desk, the intended activity there was to grade papers. That's where I in my head, I'm set up to do that. So that's what happened, right? So, like I said, a little pat on the back and encouragement for you to do the same, to set up your space. Spaces, so you have that divide and can get done what both you want to do and what you need to do. The other is, I guess this is the second week in a row where I have gone 5 for 5. This is my 5th video of the week, one every day. I do think this is a nice habit, nice routine. Another thing, right? In case you haven't watched the other videos, this is habit stacking, right? It's just something I'm already doing. I'm already getting into the car. I'm already getting my phone out, hooking it up to, my car and stuff, and GPS. And so, in addition to that, when I do that, I will also, just set up my phone on a little holder here and press record, share my thoughts. So, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you've checked out some of my other videos. And please give us a like, give me a comment, something to engage with you. I did share that one of my hopes, thoughts in creating this channel would be to join a community, but we can create one too. I have shared some of my interests, activities, hobbies, roles, etc. If we share any of that, let's just share some more, right? Leave a comment down below. I promise to respond. And I don't know. That's it, man. Thanks. Like, subscribe. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Peace.